Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Can I start?
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, said Bibi Zahra. I have a surprise for you. I'm going to tell you about my father Muhammad in the quote called the Qissa. Once I heard a knock on my door. I opened the door and it was my father. I said, Assalamu alaikum.
He said, Assalamu alaikum, ya Fatima.
My father said, Assalamu alaikum, ya Fatima. I said, Wa alaikum assalam, my father. He said, may I have a blanket? And Bibi Zahra gave Prophet Muhammad a qissa. When Bibi Zahra looked at it, Prophet Muhammad's face, it was it looked like the shining moon. Then Bibi Zahra's son Hassan came and said, Assalamu alaikum, ya Ummah. Bibi Zahra said back, Wa alaikum assalam, my darling. Imam Hassan said, I smell the smell of my grandfather. Bibi Zahra said, yes, your grandfather is here. Imam Hassan walked towards Prophet Muhammad and said, may I join you underneath the qissa? Prophet Muhammad said, yes, you may.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil.
After a while, Imam Hussein came. Bibi and Imam Hussein said, Assalamu alaikum ya Ummah. Bibi Zahra said back, Wa alaikum assalam, my darling. He said, I smell the smell of my grandfather. Bibi Zahra said, yes, your grandfather is here. Imam Hussein walked towards his grandfather and said, may I join you underneath the qissa? Prophet Muhammad said, yes, you may. Not too long, after a while, Imam Ali came and Imam Ali said, Assalamu alaikum, O daughter of the Messenger of Allah. Bibi Zahra said back, Wa alaikum assalam, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam Ali said, I smell the smell of my cousin. Bibi Zahra said, yes, your cousin's here. Then Bibi Zahra walked towards Prophet Muhammad and asked him, may I join you underneath the qissa? Prophet Muhammad said, yes, you are part of me, Bibi Zahra. Then Prophet Muhammad raised his hands and asked Allah for dua. He said, these are my 5. Keep them safe and keep them al-Tahira. Allah said back, Wa alaikum assalam, O Muhammad. I made everything in the heavens, in the earth. For you 5 Ahlul Qissa.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil.
Then Angel Jibreel came and said and asked Allah, who is these 5? Allah said, this is Bibi Zahra, her father, her husband, and her 2 sons.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل.
They are the Ahlul Bayt of Tahira. Jibreel was so excited he came down to heavens. He came down to Bibi Fatima's house. He quickly rushed and he asked Prophet Muhammad if he could come inside the Qissa. Prophet Muhammad said yes. I wonder what this means, said Ali Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why did her family gather like this underneath the clothed Qissa? Prophet Muhammad replied, Allah has brought us together today under the Qissa to make us the Ahlul Bayt of Tahira.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل.
Imam Ali replied, what amazing and kind Lord he is. From now on, whenever anybody feels sad or alone, or really wish for something that they want, remember this event and ask Allah for help. Allah will send His angels to pray for them. Imam Ali replied, wow, how wonderful. Now that is a special surprise, but from Allah. Not just for us, but for everybody. What a kind Lord He is. So there you are, children. What started with my father in the Qissa made us the Ahlul Bayt al-Tahira. Because it was sent by Almighty Allah.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل. ما شاء الله.
صل على محمد وعلى محمد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل.
Good job, Zahra. MashaAllah.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل.
शाहिद दो जहां खुदा हाफिज ए मोहम्मद की जान खुदा हाफिज ए शाहिद दो जहां खुदा हाफिज हम शबीए नबी हुसैन के लाल अकबर नौजवान खुदा अकबर नौजवान खुदा शहीदीन के कृष्ण लब यावर असगर बेजुबान खुदा असगर बेजुबान खुदा हिरने वाले कुछ होंठों पर अपनी सूखी ज़बान खुदा अपनी सूखी ज़बान खुदा हाफिज जाओ शब्बर की जान, खुदा जाओ शब्बर की जान, खुदा हाफिज। अलमदारे फौज ए अब्बास, ए अली के नशान, खुदा है अली के नशान, खुदा हाफिज। हो चुकी आज खत्म मेहमानी शियों के मेहमान, खुदा शियों के मेहमान, खुदा हाफिज।
सलामी क़याम जलते हैं रन में नामों से शय निकलते हैं, रन में नामों से शय निकलते हैं, रन में बजते हैं फतह के बाजे, डर से बेवों के दाम निकलते हैं, डर से बेवों के दाम निकलते हैं। बैठी है बीबियां अंधेरे में शामियों में चराग जलते, शामियों में चराग जलते हैं। ज़ेरे खंजर गर्दने शब्बीर मुर्तज़ा गम से हाथ मरते, मुर्तज़ा गम से हाथ मरते हैं। क़ब्र असग़र से कहती थी बानू ऐ लहर हम यहाँ से चलते, ऐ लहर हम यहाँ से चलते हैं। सलामी क़याम जलते हैं। फातिहा। जब लुट के करबला से असीरे सितम चले, सज्जाद सरबरह नबार दर्दो अलम चले, रोते सरों को पीते पाबान गम चले। ज़ैनब ने लाशे शेख के कहा भाई हम चले, ज़ैनब ने लाशे शेख के कहा भाई हम चले। मरने से आपके में ये ईज़ा उठाती हूँ, दरबार में यज़ीद के सर नंगे जाती हूँ, दरबार में यज़ीद के सर नंगे जाती हूँ। हाय हाय मेरे मुसाफिरे करबो बला हुसैन, हाय हाय मेरे गरीब मेरे महले खा हुसैन, हाय हाय तुझे न पानी ना खतरा मिला हुसैन, हाय हाय तमाम तन तेरा टुकड़े हुआ हुसैन, हाय हाय तमाम तन तेरा टुकड़े हुआ हुसैन। से गले पर खंजरे बेदात चल गया, हाय हाय तरफ तरफ के तेरा दम निकल गया, हाय हाय तरफ तरफ के तेरा दम निकल गया। नवाली की बिज़ा तुझे मिली, ऐ करबला खुदा की अमानत तुझे मिली, ऐ खाक मेरी माँ की रियाज़त तुझे मिली, ले ज़मीन शम्मे इमामा तुझे मिली, ले ज़मीन शम्मे इमामा तुझे मिली। दामन तेरा भरा मेरी कहती चढ़ गई, सरहद में तेरे भाई से ज़ैनब बिछड़ गई, सरहद में तेरे भाई से ज़ैनब बिछड़ गई। ये कह के सर पीटो के रोई वो दिल जली, आकर नजब से हाल मेरा देखो या अली, गर्दन रसन में आपके बेटी की है बंदी, कहती है मारिया से वो चश्म तर चली, कहती है मारिया से वो चश्म तर चली। है मैं करबलाए मुअल्ला में लुट गई, परदेश में आके बिरादर से छुट गई, परदेश में आके बिरादर से छुट गई। भाई मेरे सामने नेजा चले किया, देखो दबर बदन पर बराबर लगा किए, शबीर शुक्र शुक्र है मुँह से कहा किए, उतराना शुमर सीने से बेसा जुदा किए, उतराना शुमर सीने से बेसा जुदा किए। रोती रही मैं वो सरे शब्बीर ले गया, भाई के मेरे खून भरी तस्वीर ले गया, भाई के मेरे खून भरी, भाई के मेरे खून भरी तस्वीर ले गया।
मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम।
سورة المباركة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعليمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم والقرآن المجيد وكتاب الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Dearest respected brothers and respected sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. One of the questions when studying Tawheed that one may have is that when you look at the religion of Islam and you look at the fact that there are many, many religions all over the world, There are many languages all over the world. There are many different belief systems all over the world. And we know that when it comes to Islam, and specifically the language that God chose to reveal the Holy Quran in, when we look at the fact that this language is the language that the greatest creation of God and his family, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that of course is the Arabic language. So when it comes to Tawheed, one of the questions that one may have is, why do we call God Allah? This is a question some may ask, some may never ask it. You may go a whole lifetime never asking, why is God called Allah? Right? God could be called anything. Why Allah? Not only that, if you ask yourself throughout the day, what word do you say more than Allah, or think more than Allah, you'll be hard pressed. We say Allahu Akbar. Even in the salawat, we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Surah Fatiha, for example, always Alhamdulillah. Allah's always recited, but why Allah? English, A-L-L-A-H. Inshallah, very briefly, in a capstone to the introduction to Tawheed that we had over the past few nights, we're going to examine two dimensions. Number one, why do we call God Allah? Specifically, what does Allah mean? Number one. And number two, do the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala violate the laws of Tawheed as we discussed? Now, they don't, obviously, but we will explain them, inshallah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah is a compound of two words in Arabic. The first is al. Al is what's known as an infinite or a definitive, like the. So, for example, we say the book, the chair, the. Al. Okay, that's pretty simple. This next part is where it gets very interesting. And the majority of this information has come from two sources. There are two tafsirs of the Holy Quran. One by Aga Yazda Puya Yazdi, Afwan, and the second is Allama Tabatabayis Al-Mizan. So these are the two main sources we use to understand, because both of these great scholars, when they do the tafsir of Surah Fatiha, the first thing they explain is Allah. And again, in English, I'll spell it out, A-L-L-A-H. It's a compound. First thing is Allah. Okay. The second part, if you look at Allah, the way that it is actually A-L-Aliha. So it's, or Illah. So it's Al-Illah. Illah has three possible derivatives that it's come from. The first is what's known as Allah. Allah means he worshipped, or this concept of worship. Allah, he worshipped. The other one is either Aliha or Waliha, depending on, there's difference of opinion on what that derivative, what the root of ilaha was. Now those two words, this Arabic language is absolutely incredible, because these two words mean something that's puzzling. Bear with me here. Something that bewilders the individual, something that causes wonder. Why would that be the root for why Arabic uses Allah to describe God? That's the first question. We'll answer here in a second. So the main thing here that we're going to prove is Allah, A-L-L-A-H, is a proper noun. Okay? So it's not actually a description that you can give to anything or anyone else. Not anything, not any creation. And we'll see here in a second that the other names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they can be adjectives, for example. You could say that a person is Rahman, right? It's an adjective. You could have a verb. The person is being merciful, for example. But Allah is proper noun. It's the only name in Arabic, the only word in Arabic that cannot be used as an adjective or a verb. Why is this important? Because what the scholars say about Allah, the word, again, right now we're just talking about the Arabic word for Allah, is that it denotes this concept of something that you know inherently. And we talked about this with the attributes of Allah. Inherently, you know about it, but you can't get yourself to express what it is. You think God, right, the word, God, God. You think God in English does that the way Allah does in Arabic? It denotes this concept that you know there's something consciously there, but you can't express it. What Allah in Arabic actually means is it denotes this idea that there is this unlimited existence that cannot be explained or defined or has any limitations. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Furthermore, the scholars go on to say that, and again, we're not even talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, the existence of God. We're talking about the meaning of what Allah actually is denoting. And Arabic is so beautiful because remember, it could have been any language. Now, Arabic says that Allah actually means that whatever has this proper noun is something that you cannot understand. The limited cannot comprehend it. All of this from two compound words, al and illah. Al-lillah, Allah. That's the first part. Second part is, it's out of range of knowledge. So what happens is the scholars say that it's something which is universally known. But what they've said is that these two words, and bear with me, it's a little technical, but we'll explain it here in a second. These two words, when you combine them, they become a proper noun. Why is this proper noun so important? Because you'll notice, stuff for a lot of people, this never happened. Nothing or no one has ever named Allah. Have you ever met anyone named Allah? Hey, my name is Allah. You're just saying, oh my God. No, it's a proper noun. There are a lot of proper nouns, right? There's a lot of proper nouns. Ali is a proper noun. Muhammad is a proper noun. Sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. But those can be given, and it's of course very recommended. There are many people named that. But when it comes to Allah, it's a proper noun for one. Again, one in uniqueness, not one in number. And Islam is so beautiful that you know the respect that we're meant to give this name, that even in fiqh we're taught. Even in English, actually, God, according to the scholars, you have to be in wudu even to touch God in English. Not Quran. God, Allah, any of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the scholars say you have to be in wudu out of respect. Just even though it's a translation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name. That's the importance of that name that we give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when someone asks you, why is God called Allah? You can look at the fact that explain that it is this understanding through these two compound words that Allah is not describable. That's at the end of the day what it's really trying to explain, is that you cannot describe what this existent is. Because what is a name? Ask yourself, what is a name? And this is what we're going to get to here in a second. A name is a description or an identifier or a sign of something, but it's not the thing itself. Now, oftentimes, what has happened is the name has gotten mixed with the person. So you have a person, you have a name. You know, if I don't name that person, do they stop existing? Do they stop being a person? No. This is important here, and you'll see why. So the first part is Allah denotes this concept of the inability to comprehend or to understand what the existent is, because you're naming something. That's why nothing else can be given the name Allah. This is Allahu Akbar. You won't say God Hu Akbar. No. Not only is it grammatically incorrect, it doesn't do justice, because God in English does not denote what Allah denotes in Arabic. There's a difference. Now, yes, the other thing they say is if you want to say he, like huwa, he is the closest. And again, for the sake of time, one of the things we didn't get an opportunity to discuss, but inshallah we do in later time, is that whole concept of gender. Of course, he is just a neutral. Of course, it does not denote a gender. But you can refer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he, huwa. But the best name, and I even read it in one, of course, when it comes to the greatest of names, Isma Azam, they say that Isma Azam is unknown. But there are some who believe that Allah is Isma Azam. The name Allah is Isma Azam. So this is the greatest name you can use to refer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this brings us to our next part. Now understanding what the word Allah means and what it denotes, let us look at the concept of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa alihi. The reason that we mentioned this part about names being signs, bear with me, it goes hand in hand with the concept that we talked about with the second stage of Tawheed fi Sifat, and we looked at the difference between essence and attributes. There are people who actually believe that the name and the existent, so when I say existent, we're talking about God, that first cause, that they're one and the same. You see, these names of Allah, if I ask you, say, how many names does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have? You'll say 99 names. Okay. These 99 names, what they do is each name is a sign. Okay. We said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has an essence. That essence cannot be defined. But we know that that essence is knowledge. We know that that essence is power. For example, those are two of the attributes that we talked about. When I look at some of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are signs which point to those attributes. So for example, I say Allah is Rahman. Is Allah's essence Rahman? No. Is Allah's essence Rahim? No. Allah's essence is mercy. Rahman and Rahim point to the mercy of Allah, but in different capacities. Because if you ever read it, so what is Rahman? Mercy. What's Rahim? Mercy. So why am I saying that in the name of God, the merciful, even though we translate it as beneficent? Because Rahman and Rahim each denote something different. Now, these signs, what happens is people often they mix and they say the sign or the name and Allah, the existent, is the same thing. No. These names, according to the school of Ahlul Bayt are created. This is incredible, bear with me. These names are created, their meanings are created. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is still separate from the name. Why? There are people who actually would worship the name itself and not Allah. So what the school of Ahlul Bayt emphasizes is that understand that these names are signs which point you. I have a name, someone says, where's Jafar? It's a sign that points you to me. If I change my name, do I stop being who I am? Do I stop existing? No, a name is simply a sign, but I'm still separated from my name. And we have to remember the same thing when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That these meanings cannot really be understood. They're just indications that allow us to learn about the attributes which point to the essence of Allah, which, as we discussed, cannot be understood, cannot be comprehended, cannot be reflected, cannot be thought about. So all of this to point for us to be, that's why, what did we say? That one of the root words in Arabic is bewilderment, puzzlement. We said when you describe Allah, you only describe Allah through negation, through saying, I don't know what He is. Why? Because I'm bewildered. Because I'm in a state of wonder. I cannot explain. I cannot comprehend. See how Allah, the word, the name, is much more powerful than God and its meaning. That's why, and I'll always say this because I don't speak any other language, but English is all I know. But when people try to translate from Farsi or Urdu or Arabic, for example, they're like, I will do this, but I'm not doing it justice. the words, you know, very quick, I don't like to do this, I'll go on a tangent for 2 seconds, because it's kind of interesting. You know the word mola that we talk about, of course, you know mola, it has so many meanings. You know that mola, one of the meanings of mola is friend, we know that. But one of the meanings of mola is also enemy in Arabic. Have you ever seen that? That one word can have 2 opposite meanings depending on the context. And of course, mola in the context that we know is different than both of those, but that inshallah will be a discussion for another day. The point is what? Arabic is so powerful. The language is so powerful. Now, I have to bring this up because this is often something that people say about, should I read the Quran? So yeah, of course you should read the Quran. I don't know Arabic. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this book in Arabic. And the scholars all agree to do both. Why do both? If I read just in Arabic, there's barakat there. I am getting the way it was revealed. The blessings are undeniable. Yes, in a perfect world, and strive for this, I say this to myself, yes, inshallah, learn Arabic where you can read it, yes, of course, and understand it. But if I'm reading Quran, and I'm reading every day, which is what we said is so essential to being a lover of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, is to love Imams means to also love the Quran. Because the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, not only were they the walking Quran, their love was the Quran as well. So if I don't love the Quran, they're gonna say it's right. So that's the first thing. But the English translation or the Urdu translation or the Farsi or the Spanish, any translation, it still gives you a flavor. You know, it's like you have a diabetic. You said, I used to drink soda. So, okay, you have 2 choices. Either you don't drink any soda or you have diet. Now, there are doctors here, I'm not gonna, proclaim to have diet soda. Of course, there's some stuff in there that's not good. The point is what? They at least get some of that flavor, some of that idea of those who drink regular Coke. You see the difference, right? So yes, am I going to get the same experience? No, but at least I'm going to get some of it. So don't ever say, well, I don't speak Arabic, so I'm going to neglect the Quran until I learn Arabic. Habib, you're not going to learn Arabic right now. Let's be honest. You can say, I will wait. I'm going to read. Yeah, inshallah, that's fine. No. It's just, and remember, oftentimes that shaitan also tells you, learn Arabic, then read this book. The point is what? Because I've heard this a lot. People say, well, I can't read the Quran because I don't know Arabic. Okay. Even if you can't even read the text, listen to it and read the translation. Dua Kumel, we read every Thursday, inshallah. Read the translation and then read the Arabic. Yes, it's great to read the Arabic, to listen to the Arabic, you're sitting there, but know what you're saying. Ziyarat Ashura, for example, read the translation. Dua Arafah, read the translation. Don't have that excuse saying, I don't know, it's in Arabic. No. These will at least give you some essence, some way to purify, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. One last point on the names, and we'll begin to wrap up, inshallah. There's 2 things here that I want to emphasize. There are narrations that indicate that these 99 names, and Allah is the 100th name. So remember, we said Allah has 99 names. The 100th name is Allah. Narrations indicate that these names came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. What does that mean? I cannot come up with a name for Allah. Not only can I not come up with a name for Allah, these 99 names, they're different doors to different problems you have in your life. Oftentimes what happens is we say, I've been making dua, I've been using this name, that name. Habibi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says you have this problem, you use this name, for example. I'll give you an example. Those individuals, and we pray that, especially during this pandemic, that everyone is relieved financially as well. But there are people who are struggling financially. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you're struggling financially. Then why not come to my name, Ar-Razaq? Ar-Razaq is what? The sustainer. What did we say? One of the attributes of action means those attributes that are not being employed all of the time is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sustains. And so this name points to that ability to sustain. 350 times, I believe, they say, recite Al-Razaq, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those financial difficulties you're going through will be resolved. The point is what? That Allah's saying, this is how you can reach me. We make up our own dhikr. No, Allah's giving you the formula. And the best way of gaining ma'rifah is to learn the names. So I say, for example, I have a best friend. I'm so close to him. He's like a brother to me. I would do anything for him. Oh, maybe I know him. What's his name? I don't know. So what are you talking about? So, and I'm saying this to myself because I'm inshallah trying to learn them. I love Allah, I love Allah. 99 names, I don't know any of them. I don't even know what Rahman means. I say it a million times a day. I don't know the difference between Rahman and Rahim. To love Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam means that you love learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you look at Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, what did their lives revolve around? Not just from an ibadat standpoint. What do you think it was that the Imams focused on? You know, we talk about what we like. Their mind was always focused on what? Allah. I will leave you with these last two narrations. We looked at Allah, we looked at the names. Let me ask you, you want to know how Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, bear with me here, look at this paragraph in Nahj al-Balagha. Look at how your Mawla describes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask you, where else will you get an explanation? Where else will you gain ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like this? Look what the Mawla says. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Sermon 1, Nahj al-Balagha. My dear brothers and sisters, I've mentioned this sermon a lot. I ask you, if you have not read, I'm just saying the first 3 paragraphs. There's a heading where it says, the creation of the sky. Read those, but start with the first 3. Your life will change. When you read how Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam describes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your fitra will be wanting to run towards gaining the ma'rifah of Allah. How does Mawla explain? He says in Nahj al-Balagha, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, he is a being, but not through phenomenon of coming into being. Now, I'm not gonna attempt to explain the words of Mawla. I can't. But just let your imagination look at this. He exists, but not from non-existence. He is with everything, but not in physical nearness. He is different from everything, but not in physical separation. He acts, but without connotation of movements and instruments. He sees even when there is none to be looked at from among his creation. He is only one, such that there is none with whom he may keep company or whom he may miss in his absence. Allah. Look at the picture now. What did we say? I have to say this as a disclaimer. You notice the words that Mawla uses doesn't allow you to imagine what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, because we can't. Not only can we not, we are not supposed to. So when you hear this, you just throw up your hands in bewilderment and then go into sajda and say, Subhanallah. Just worship. That's true tawheed. And this last, normally I don't like to read excerpts, but this, I wish I had more time to memorize it, inshallah I do, but I'll leave you with this and we'll go to Masal. That explanation was from Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. You see what ma'rifah does, what names do, what knowing Allah does, is it creates spirituality. And if you have spirituality, no matter what happens, not the greatest difficulty or greatest tribulation, if you make Allah your importance, you will be able to accomplish anything. If you don't believe me, look at this. All I'm going to do is narrate this to you, and then I'll explain it. Just listen to these words. These words will change your heart. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'll give context in a second. Oh God, you are the most high place, greatest power, and most terrible punishment. You are independent of all creation, sublime in your glory, and you're able to act as you wish, close to your creations in your mercy, truthful in your promise, bounteous in your blessings, and generous in your goodness. That's only the first part. I wouldn't continue. You know what is so remarkable about that level of optimism, that level of being connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is that was said by Imam Hussein alayhi salam in his final moments. Then Mattan in the narration says, it's like, you're ready to go to Messiah, but I want to show you this. That statement you would expect from someone when everything is going well. The Maqadal say that when Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was literally in his final breaths before, that this dua he makes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see what Tawheed does, as we talked about? Do those words sound like someone who doesn't know what he's doing, who's not content after losing everything in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When everything's good, we praise Allah. But what about when things go wrong? You praise Allah. And that is why there is no better methodology or way of learning about Tawheed than through the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Because I want to worship the God of Hussein. Because if worshiping that God creates a Hussein, look at the capability of the human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has any creation, could have gone to any, but human beings, why? The greatest intellect, where? The 14th. And you see that exemplified. But what I don't understand is you have the greatness of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and then on the opposite spectrum, you have the greatest epitome of evil and the greatest epitome of mercy, of lack of mercy. We have come now on the Shab of the 13th of Muharram. Do you know the situation that the family of Rasulullah was in? The difficulties that they went through now? Before I narrate the Soyem, I have to start with this. I have to take you back to the Holy Prophet. Why? The narrations say that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was getting ready to do the kafan and the janazah of Lady Khadija sallallahu alaiha, that their situation was such that they were poor. So Rasulullah did not even have a kafan that would completely cover the body of Sayyidah Khadija sallallahu alaiha. Narrations say at that time that Hazrat Jibreel comes down from the heavens and he tells Rasulullah, "Oh Rasulullah, I have 5 kafans here for you." And Rasulullah says, "Oh Jibreel, who are these kafans for?" Jibreel says, "This first kafan is for Lady Khadija, so that you may be able to cover her and she can have a proper burial." Rasulullah says, "Oh Jibreel, who is this second kafan for?" Jibreel says, "Oh Rasulullah, this kafan is that you can cover your body, so that when you pass away, your body will be covered." Jibreel says, "This third kafan is for Sayyidah Fatima sallallahu alaiha, so that when she is shaheed, there will be a kafan to cover her body." Rasulullah says, "Oh Jibreel, who is this fourth kafan for?" Jibreel says, "Oh Rasulullah, this kafan is for Amir al-Mu'mineen, so that when Ali is shaheed, there will be a kafan to cover his body." There is a 5th kafan for Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, so that when Imam al-Hasan is shaheed, there will be a kafan to cover his body. Rasulullah asked Jibreel, "Oh Jibreel, what about my grandson Hussein?" Jibreel says, "Oh Rasulullah, the Ummah will leave your grandson in such a state that there will not even be a kafan to cover his body. And for 3 days, the body of Hussein will lay bare on the sands of Karbala burning." Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, ajrakum Allah. You know, the narrations tell us on the 10th of Muharram, after Shurur beheads Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, they did not stop there. The enemies, they go and they begin to plunder the body of Imam al-Hussein. Narrations say they begin to take the shirt off of the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, the trousers off of the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. My dear brothers and sisters, out of respect, I cannot narrate all of it. I cannot narrate. One of the narrations say that they came to try and take a ring off of the holy hand of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, but the ring would not budge. Narrations say the enemy comes and cuts off the finger of the hand of Imam al-Hussein and takes the ring. It did not stop there, my dear brothers and sisters. Narration states Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam's body completely barren, open on the burning sands of Karbala. How much musibat and difficulty the family of Imam Hussein went through. Narrations say after they murdered Imam Hussein, what do? They go and they begin to burn the tents of the women of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I cannot narrate all of this, nor can we take it, but I ask you, today is the 12th. Narrations say that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, he goes and they go towards Kufa. But as they asked, one of the narrations say that they asked Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, how could it have been if Imam Sajjad was in Kufa? How did he go to Karbala to bury Imam al-Hussein? Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says, Imam al-Rida, when Imam al-Qadim was shaheed, where was Imam al-Qadim? In Baghdad. Where was Imam al-Rida? Medina. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best of planners. The same way Imam al-Rida buried Imam al-Qadim, narrations say same for Imam al-Sajjad. But you know what? I ask you, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, when he first went to Kufa, do you think he saw the body of his father? Do you think he saw what state they left the body of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in? Narrations say the Banu Asad are there. They see a man all in black. They tell him, they say, we have to be careful. This could be on the army of Ibn Ziyad. As they get closer, they don't know who he is. A man approaches and he goes and he begins to direct. And he says, these are the companions of my father. They say, who is this man? If he says, my father, he begins to instruct. He says, dig one grave for the companions of my father. Another grave specifically for Habib ibn Mudahir alayhi salam. And then Imam Sajjad alayhi salam begins to walk towards the body of his father, Imam Hussein. Narrations say, Mullah Sajjad alayhi salam, what condition the body of Hussein was in, that after Umar Hassan asked for the 10 horse riders to travel on the body of Hussein, then Imam Sajjad alayhi salam calls for a prayer mat to collect the pieces of Imam Hussein. Last narration, I'll leave you with this. The narrations say, Imam Sajjad says, there's one body I have left to bury. And there's a body left alone on the Furat, with no left hand and no right hand. Imam Sajjad alayhi salam narrations say that as he went to pick up the body of Abbas, when he picked up the left side, the right side fell down. When he picked up the right side, the left side fell down. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Ridan bi qada'ihi wa tasliman. Matam Hussein.
Fatima Zahra na jaiye, hum bekason ko chhod ke आखा न जाइए ए नूरे ने फातिमा ज़हरा न जाइए हम बेकसों को छोड़ के आखा न जाइए मौला तुम्हारे आने से रौनक घरों में थी दिन रात गम तुम्हारा क्या करते थे सभी। मुद्दत ये 2 महीने की मातम में कट गई। रौनक की चाहे आज उदासी बरस रही। हम बेकसों को छोड़ के आहा न जाइए। ऐ नूर ऐन फातिमा ज़हरा न जाइए। मौला तुम्हारे ताजिया खाने उदास है। जितने तुम्हारे शिया है सब बेहवास है। धारस ये थी कि आप गुलामों के पास है। अब आप जा रहे हैं तो हम सब हैरास है। हम बेकसों को छोड़ के आहा न जाइए। ऐ नूर ऐन फातिमा ज़हरा न जाइए। मौला अज़ा की बज़्म में आती थी फातिमा। ज़हमत ये 2 महीने वो उठाती थी फातिमा। आंसू हमारे साथ बहाती थी फातिमा। हमको दुआएं दे के ही जाती थी फातिमा। हम बेकसों को छोड़ के आका न जाइए। ऐ नूर ऐन फातिमा ज़हरा न जाइए। मौला बाप अगले बरस आएंगे। जीती है रोने वाले तो फिर तुमको पाएंगे। मातम करेंगे और अलम भी उठाएंगे। वादा करो कि आएंगे और सब को लाएंगे। हम बेकसों को छोड़ के आका न जाइए। ऐ नूर ऐन फातिमा ज़हरा न जाइए। या हुसैन 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 शाह सलामुन अलैक। 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 Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Ali.
सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि या अबा अब्दुल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या रसूल अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या नबी अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैकुम रहमतुल्लिल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका सय्यदुल वसीन अमीरुल मोमिनीन, अस्सलामु अलैकी या फातिमतु ज़हरा सय्यदतु निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका अबा मोहम्मद हसन इब्न अली अल मुज्तबा, अस्सलामु अलैका अबा अब्दुल्लाह अल हुसैन अल मज़लूम अल शहीद, अस्सलामु अलल हुसैन व अला अली इब्न अल हुसैन व अला औलाद अल हुसैन वाला साहब हुसैन। अस्सलाम वालेकुम जमीअ शुहदाए करबला, खुसूसन सय्यदी मौला अबुल फज़ल अब्बास या अमीरुल मोमिनीन व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातहू। अस्सलाम वालेकुम जमीअन अहमद ताहिरीन मिन ज़ुरियतिल हुसैन अलैहिस्सलाम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम या गरीब अल गुरबा। अस्सलाम वालेकुम या मुइन अल दुआफा वल फकरा। अस्सलाम वालेकुम शम्स शमूस अय्युल मदफून बिअर्ज़ तूस। अस्सलाम वालेकुम अबुल हसन अली इब्न मूसा अय्युरिज़ा व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातहू। अस्सलाम वालेकुम या साहिबुल अस्र व ज़मान अलमान 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 मिन फितनत ज़मान। अस्सलाम वालेकुम या शरीकुल कुरान। अस्सलाम वालेकुम या इमाम इंस व जान। अजल्लाह ताला फरजक सल्लल्लाहु मखरजक व जानना मिन निवानिक व अंसारिक व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातहू।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अल्लाहुम्मा कुल वलियका हुज्जत इब्न हसन सल्वातुका अलैहि व अला आबाई फी हाज़िहि सा व फी कुल्ली सा वलियो व हाफ़िज़ा व खैरो व नासिरा व दलीलो व इना حتى أحسنه وردكاته فيها سبيلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
حيدري
Olha.
حيدري حيدري